Did you know that ticket prices can actually go down right before the game? That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time tracks ticket prices in real time from thousands of trusted sellers, then shows you all the best deals. So we can get tickets at the last minute for up to 60% off. Download Game Time now.
Hey folks, welcome into the Cam Rogers Show on this Monday morning, May 7th, 2018, episode 100 of the program. We have made it triple digits, and we thank you for coming along for the ride all these months. It's been a great journey so far, a lot to get to. I've got you covered for the next hour. Be sure to hit me up here in the comments section on Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Here is the rundown of the program today. The latest NFL headlines got a big-time story about perhaps some changes to the national anthem policy across the NFL. I'll tell you about that. Plus, Tom Downey joins me with his post-draft top 10 NFL power rankings. That about at the midway point here in the show. And in light of the recent LeBron James buzzer beater here in the playoffs against the Toronto Raptors, I'm giving you my top 10 most clutch players in NBA history, and then a final word at the end of the program. Let's get into it. Today's top story coming out of the Washington Post, which is reporting the NFL may allow teams themselves to create their own policies in terms of protests during the national anthem. So, some sort of analogy here. In a sense, the federal government would give power to the states to decide this topic here. You know, with the federal government leaving policies of marijuana, for example, to the states, the NFL could perhaps let the power into the team's hands, and then they would decide whether or not they would require standing or kneeling during the national anthem, or I guess allow kneeling would be the latter option there. So as we stand right now, there is no legislation from the NFL, from teams, or anything of the sort that states that players are required to stand during the national anthem, right? So players can kneel right now and perhaps be surfaced to, you know, perhaps, I guess, some sort of punishment for the teams or anything like that. But nothing from the NFL, no suspensions, no fines, no anything like that. So there's nothing written in stone here about this topic. So I think putting the power on the teams would probably make matters worse, in a sense. You got to think about it. What if one team has a policy that players should stand during the national anthem, and another team has a policy that says, well, do what you want, and that team that allows the players to do what they want travels to the team that requires the standing? It just creates this muddiness here where I think it should be avoided. Just too many variables, and I think things could get ugly if that were the case. Now, the Washington Post is also reporting that the NFL could decide from anywhere from straight up requiring standing from all the players in the NFL to straight up saying you can do whatever you want. So the NFL could perhaps have its own legislation. It's not just about the teams, perhaps. So there's different avenues here that could go on. This will be a topic of discussion during the owners' meetings in Atlanta later this month. So different pathways that we could go about this. Where do you all stand on the national anthem debate? Should players be required to stand during the 2018 NFL season and then beyond? Hit me up in the comments section. This is a topic that will continue to be discussed throughout the summer because the owners themselves and the NFL itself is discussing it. So there's resistance on both sides of the aisle here. There's the camp that believes that players should be able to do what they want, a la Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem and Alejandro Villanueva, you know, coming out of the locker room and standing. You know, there are policies, or I guess thought processes, that say players should be able to do what they want. Now, there's the other, you know, realm of this that's essentially in favor of requiring players to stand during the national anthem. There are the people that believe that because these players are employees of the NFL, they should listen to their employer in the sense that they should stand during the national anthem. Because I will say this, there is in the policy, or at least in the legislation, that says players are strongly encouraged to stand during the anthem. So obviously not required, but strongly encouraged. Dwayne chiming in here on the Cam Rogers Show, episode 100, saying, "This isn't a dictatorship nor a government. It's entertainment, and the players should do as they please during the national anthem," and concerning it. Appreciate the comment there, Dwayne. I think a lot of people are into the camp that you sit in right now. You know, there's this debate here about the First Amendment rights, but also the debate of following along with what your boss wants, right? You know, I've drawn the comparison before. An accountant working for somebody at a firm or something like that, and the boss says that they can't kneel during the national anthem. You know, let's say they play the national anthem during work every morning. You can't kneel during that. What are you going to do? Kneel anyway? You're going to be fired. You're going to be looking for a new job. You're going to be on Indeed.com looking for openings. So a lot of people use that same kind of thought process here with the players, in that because they are working for the NFL, they should listen to what the legislation currently says, and it says that they are strongly encouraged to stand. I'm not saying that's my position. You guys know my position on this topic. I personally feel that the players should do with what they please. Now, when you have players filing grievance cases against the NFL and saying that the NFL owners are colluding against me and all this stuff, talking about Kaepernick and Eric Reid, you're hard-pressed to really say that they're going to be employed pretty darn soon in the NFL because, well, if you're suing your employer, why would they hire you? Thomas chiming in on Facebook Live here. When you're on the clock, you will have to abide by certain things. Whatever your boss decides, that is you have to abide by or don't work there. Same thing for the NFL. So Thomas is kind of talking about what I was discussing with this analogy here, where you're working for your employer. If your employer wants you to stand, or it's highly encouraged to stand during the national anthem, you should do so. So Roger Goodell is going to have his hands full, ladies and gentlemen. He'll be working on this topic with all the NFL owners right now, but let me say this. The wrong solution would be to let the teams create this policy, because I'm telling you, it's going to get messy. You're better off doing just some blanket legislation, whether it is standing or letting the players do with what they please. At the end of the day, and I think the sad thing about this topic is that I don't think we will ever have 100% happiness among all the sides. If we do come to some sort of compromise, there's going to be still some resistance on both areas of the aisle here. And it's sad, and I think it's going to continue to be a topic of discussion out there. And Colin Kaepernick, of course, was recently in discussions with the Seattle Seahawks. There was the report that Kaepernick was going to go work out for Seattle, that Seattle asked him about his plans for kneeling in 2018, and he said he may not, he really doesn't have a plan, and the Seahawks canceled the workout there. So, I mean, this is obviously going to be a very real topic as we go forward, and the NFL Players Association is right in the middle of all this as well, really keeping tabs. And, of course, they're in the players' corner saying that the players have the right to kneel during the national anthem because there is no legislation that requires it to do so. So this is a developing story here. There are a lot of variables to this. It's a fluid situation, no doubt about it. But the owners are going to meet in Atlanta later this month to perhaps hammer down some sort of legislation, whether it's an NFL blanket policy that says players are required to stand, whether it's a blanket policy that says players can do whatever they want, or the NFL delegates the powers to the teams to create their own policies. And, of course, just like how, topics in the United States are very controversial, such as marijuana and abortion, all this stuff, those are policies that are left to the states. They're still very controversial, right? Could be the same case here if the NFL delegates the power to the teams to decide whether or not players are allowed to kneel and whether or not they are required to stand. So I really hope the NFL either just figures out some sort of blanket type of legislation here, or they just let it be. They stick with what they have right now, and they say that, you're strongly encouraged to stand during the national anthem, but you know what? If you feel that you need to deliver some sort of message, whatever the message is, and you feel like you need to kneel during the national anthem, you should do so, or you should feel free to do so. So, I mean, it's, again, a very controversial topic, of course. Just imagine Bob McNair, though, who has made some really bad comments of late, being able to implement his own policy for the Houston Texans. And just imagine not even the sheer controversy in the NFL scope, but the divides within the Houston Texans organization. Because I'm betting you that there are players in that locker room for the Texans that want that freedom. Not necessarily that they would kneel, but they want that choice. All right, so there you go. Changes could be coming to the national anthem policy across the NFL. That's our top story here on the Cam Rogers Show, presented by the Game Time app. Head on to chatsports.com/tickets. Get up to 60% off all those last-minute sports tickets, concert tickets, and so much more. We thank them for sponsoring episode 100 of the Cam Rogers Show here today. By the way, guys, keep hitting me up in the comments section. I'd be sure to answer all of the comments and questions that flow in after the show is over, so be sure to drop me a line. All right, let's get to the next story here. Lamar Jackson has not heard from Joe Flacco, and that's according to Lamar Jackson himself. And I think this is the least surprising news of the day, because Joe Flacco obviously doesn't want to give up his starting gig with the Baltimore Ravens, and he recently refused to talk to the media in regards to the recent draft that the Ravens had. So Jackson spoke with media members during rookie minicamp and said he hasn't heard a peep from the Super Bowl MVP himself, Joe Flacco. Knowing Flacco, this really does not shock me. And again, I'm not best friends with the guy, but this is what Joe does, okay? He wants security at the quarterback position. And he's not going to go out and whine or anything like that. That's not what Joe does. It's Joe cool. He keeps it chill, all right? But in terms of really figuring out his mentality at one point in time, i.e. like right now, he usually goes quiet, especially if he's mad. And that's kind of the case right now. Joe Flacco has gone quiet. He's a guy with a lot of pride. He's got a Super Bowl MVP, 12 touchdowns, no picks in that amazing run. And, you know, I'm thinking back to the 2013 campaign for Baltimore as well. So this is after the Super Bowl when Joe Flacco got paid and all that stuff. And the Ravens struggled mightily to run the football. I'm telling you, they could get no push with that offensive line with A.Q. Shipley there on the interior and Gino Gradkowski. It was a really bad offensive line that year, and Joe Flacco was running plays out of the pistol and all this, and eventually the Ravens started running the Wildcat because they were so desperate to get a run game going. And you know what happened? Joe Flacco went quiet, and you could tell he was mad. And we could be in that same situation here between Lamar Jackson and Joe Flacco. Now, I will say Lamar has not heard from Robert Griffin III either, the other quarterback on the Baltimore Ravens roster. So now you're in a situation with Joe where he may have the biggest threat of his career waiting in the wing in Lamar. The Ravens traded up to get him. And it seems as though Baltimore is preparing for the post-Joe Flacco era. Whether or not I am ready, of course, is another topic for another day, but let me just say this. I'm not ready for the post-Joe Flacco era. Joe Flacco is my boy. He's the only quarterback I have known as a Baltimore Ravens fan. And I think it's time for Joe Flacco to put up or deal with the inevitable that Lamar Jackson is coming. And if Joe does not put up good numbers in 2018, I'm telling you, that clock will continue to tick and tick and tick. And of course, if you guys read the reports of late, looks like the Ravens are preparing to utilize Lamar Jackson in some offensive packages. May not necessarily be at quarterback. Maybe it will be. Maybe in kind of like a Wildcat type of deal. But the Ravens are going to prepare to utilize Lamar. And Marty Mornhinweg is already going through the process with that, according to reports. So there you go. Jackson and Flacco, not exactly best friends. Yet, anyway. All right, let's get to some Seattle Seahawks news here. How about Shaquem Griffin? Looks like he may play weak side linebacker. So he had a lot of versatility in college, and it looks like the Seahawks are kind of latching on to that. I think this is actually mostly an insurance policy for Griffin to learn this weak side here in case KJ Wright walks in free agency in 2019. Griffin's a sure tackler. You can move him around, maybe try him out at Leo, play him as a cover linebacker, box safety. You can kind of have fun with him. Kind of like Tremaine Edmunds, right? Tremaine Edmunds, you can kind of use that same mentality. Edmunds, of course, is a first rounder and has a lot higher of expectations. but I think the same kind of concept can be applied here to Griffin. So I'm honestly not sure what to think about the Seahawks right now, going through this reset, as they say. But I will say Griffin will be a vital piece to this defense. I think he'll be a good player on that squad, and you're looking at a team that added players like Barkevious Mingo and Dante Johnson. They lost Michael Bennett and Richard Sherman, of course. So some changes going on in Seattle, but Griffin could be certainly a bright spot on this team should, the team around him crumble a little bit. And I don't have the highest expectations out there for Seattle in 2018. All right, let's get to some more news here, talking about Booger McFarland reportedly joining the Monday Night Football crew as a field analyst. So this is interesting. Now, I'm thinking like Tony Siragusa, Pete Schrager kind of reporting here on the sideline. So Jason Witten will reportedly be the lead analyst alongside Joe Tessitore there on ESPN. And this is actually not too surprising. If you recall, and if you happen to watch the Pro Bowl, ESPN utilized Louis Riddick as a field analyst during that broadcast. Now, Riddick was part of the auditions and all this stuff, and he ultimately did not get the job. Booger McFarland apparently will. Matt Hasselbeck got a few looks as well. Kurt Warner was in discussions. I'm actually shocked that Warner isn't on this Monday Night Football team. He's a great analyst, really good with his phrasing, very concise with his thoughts. So me personally, I like the field analyst. I always liked watching Tony Siragusa on the sidelines giving his reports and such, and ESPN has actually utilized a field analyst on college football broadcasts. You guys may recall seeing Todd McShay there on the field reporting for ESPN's ABC college football broadcast. So there you go, Booger McFarland going to join the Monday Night Football crew, according to reports. All right, how about this? Mike McCarthy thinks DeShone Kizer would be a first-rounder in the 2018 NFL Draft. I want Tom Downey hitting us up in the comments section right now because this is interesting. So Kizer is presumed to be the backup to Aaron Rodgers. Did not have a good rookie campaign with the Cleveland Browns, but I'm not so sure the second coming of Tom Brady would have had a good year with the Cleveland Browns last year, but I digress. McCarthy also once talked up Brett Hundley after Rodgers went down with that injury last year, so maybe this is just some sort of tactic. But to say that Kizer has similar traits to the top quarterbacks in this draft, talking about the Mayfields, the Darnolds, the Allens, the Rosens of the world, I don't know, Mike McCarthy. That one's a little bit of a stretch, my man. I mean, I know you like to talk up your players, but if Kizer wasn't a first-round pick a year ago and then didn't have a good year in 2017, what makes him a first-round pick now? And honestly, DeShone Kizer would not go in the first round in the 2018 NFL Draft. I don't even know if he'd go in the second round. Maybe in the late second round, okay? So Travis chiming in the comments section. McCarthy has lost his marbles. Travis, that's what I'm saying, man. I don't know what McCarthy is actually doing right now. Maybe trying to build up the confidence. Sometimes coaches like to speak things into existence, and perhaps McCarthy is trying to speak DeShone Kizer into a first-round caliber quarterback. I don't know if that's going to work, but time will tell. All right, let's get to some Patriots news here. So New England is loaded with running backs right now, and it looks like Mike Gillislee could be on the chopping block here. So New England signed Gillislee to a 2-year, $6.4 million contract and also sent a 5th-round pick to Buffalo to acquire him because Gillislee was an RFA. Now with Burkhead, James White, and Sony Michel, who I can't believe was drafted by New England, all locks to make the roster, it looks like Gillislee is going to battle it out with Jeremy Hill, Brandon Bolden, and Ralph Webb for that final roster spot. So Gillislee was essentially benched, you may recall, in like the second half of last year, only playing in 1 game after week 8. All right, so whatever the case, I think Gillislee will find a home eventually, whether it's still with New England or another team. But this just draws me back to the really weird draft that New England had, especially in that first round, getting Isaiah Wynn and then grabbing Sony Michel there. You already have a loaded backfield with capable carriers there, right? With Rex Burkhead and James White. Jeremy Hill, I still think, is a quality running back. I just don't think Cincinnati utilized him the right way. And Mike Gillislee is a good running back, too. It's like, why load up on all these RBs, and then you're going to cut somebody you signed just last year? And Gillislee, it just doesn't make all that much sense to me. So there you go. That's the deal with the New England Patriots there. How about this? Earl Thomas, still a no-show at team activities with the Seattle Seahawks. Thomas is obviously a vital remaining piece of that Seahawks Legion of Boom and very critical to their success for the last few years. And he knows it, by the way, because he has the leverage and he's not showing up to team activities as we stand, which are voluntary, I will say. So Earl Thomas has made noise about this before. He wants security at the position, and the more the Seahawks drag this out, because Thomas is entering the final year of his contract, I think the worse it gets for Seattle. Would Seahawks leadership really let this get to a boiling point here, where Thomas essentially says, you know what, just trade me to the Dallas Cowboys, I'm done. John Schneider cannot let that happen, because I'm telling you, the more this drags on, the more Thomas is going to request a trade to, say, the Dallas Cowboys. And the rumor is going to pick up steam yet again. So right now, these workouts are voluntary, as I said, but keep this date in mind here, June 12th. It's the start of their 3-day mandatory minicamp where Earl Thomas could be subject to a fine around $84 million if he doesn't show up. Should the Seahawks there trade Earl Thomas if tensions continue? Hit me up on Facebook Live and YouTube Live in the comments section, and of course I'll track what you guys say. We do appreciate when you weigh in. Tell you what, it's kind of like with what's going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers and Le'Veon Bell. The more the Steelers and Colbert, the GM there, let this drag on, the worse it gets for the chemistry with Bell and Steelers leadership. Could be the same case here with Earl Thomas in Seattle. Speaking of the Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger's not going to mentor Mason Rudolph. Wow. Drama Ben back at it again, folks. So he recently made an appearance on a local sports station, and I want you guys to listen to this. Here's what he said when asked if he'll mentor Mason Rudolph. Quote, "If he asks me a question, I might just have to point to the playbook." Close quote. Oh, Ben. This is classic Ben Roethlisberger trying to stir up the headlines and all of this stuff. Talking about a guy who last year threw 5 interceptions, count them 5, against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then after that game said, well, maybe I just don't have it anymore. We're talking about the same guy who just a week ago said, well, I want to play 3 to 5 more years. Now we're talking about a guy who says, you know, I really didn't understand the selection of Mason Rudolph as our 3rd round pick. Usually 3rd round picks are for winning now. Ben Roethlisberger, I'm telling you right now, you are on the decline, and the Pittsburgh Steelers know that. Your window is closing. GM Kevin Colbert is preparing for the post-Ben Roethlisberger era. Just like, you know, there's been buzz about the Giants preparing for the post-Eli Manning era. Now, if you didn't mention retirement, then maybe the Steelers wouldn't have had to draft a quarterback in that 3rd round. Roethlisberger, you were the one that talked about retirement just last year. All right? So you're a part of this equation here. And the big-time question for all of you guys, how many more years does Ben actually have left being an adequate quarterback in the NFL? Because we're starting to see some flashes of mediocrity in some of those games last year. All right? And Ben hasn't played 16 games since 2014. So you got to go back a few years for a fully healthy Roethlisberger. And even in those 16 games, you know, he wasn't 100%. Obviously, no NFL player really is, but Ben especially. Now, we'll see if Ben walks back these statements here, which I think he will, because I think Tomlin or somebody's going to talk to him and be like, dude, what are you saying? And then also, this is interesting, Mason Rudolph also said that if I was in Ben's position, I would say the same thing. So something tells me deep down Rudolph would like to learn a little bit from Ben Roethlisberger, I would think. But here you go. Drama from Ben Roethlisberger yet again, and Boy, I love talking about it as a Baltimore Ravens fan. All right, let's get to the next storyline here. Todd Bowles unsure if Teddy Bridgewater will be a full go for OTAs. So Bowles was speaking to the media last Saturday at rookie minicamp and was pretty non-committal on whether Bridgewater will be a full participant in OTAs. And of course, Bridgewater made a regular season appearance for the Vikings last year against the Cincinnati Bengals. I think the Jets are probably just playing this safe right now. Now, I'm pretty sure Teddy Bridgewater wants to get out there and get some reps under his belt here because he's got a competition now against Darnold and against Josh McCown. And I've said this a few times on my program. This is going to be one of the more fun quarterback battles, I think, this offseason. Darnold, Bridgewater, and McCown. Bridgewater, the stopgap guy, the veteran, has shown adequate flashes, actually, of late. Bridgewater, the guy looking for that second chance in the NFL after that brutal injury a couple of years ago. And then Darnold. A lot of people thought he was going to go #1 overall in the 2018 NFL Draft. A lot of promise for him. He's raw, a bit of a project. And oh, by the way, there is that guy named Christian Hackenberg still on the roster. How about this, guys? Hackenberg actually changed his throwing motion while working with his personal quarterback coach this offseason, and Todd Bowles had no idea. Like, he didn't know that. That's where we're at with Christian Hackenberg. I think Todd Bowles is looking at the post-Hackenberg era, if you will, with the New York Jets, and Bryce Petty's already gone, right? So Hackenberg could be next. We'll see. All right, let's get to another headline here about the Seattle Seahawks. And Russell Wilson looks like he's going to get the franchise tag in 2020. I know it's a ways away, guys, but that's the report here from Pro Football Talk. And based on his 2019 cap number, it will cost the Seahawks $30.34 million to keep him for another season after the expiration of his current deal. So would Seahawks GM John Schneider here go year to year at that point and kick the can down the road, just like the Redskins and Kirk Cousins? That's the big-time question. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, the Seahawks go franchise tag all 3 years after the expiration of this current deal for Russell. That put him at $119.18 million for the next 3 years, which is an average salary of nearly $40 million per year. All right, so Wilson has said he wants to play until he's 45 years old. So if the Seahawks are smart about this, they would not use the franchise tag back to back to back and so on. I mean, it just wouldn't make any sense. He's turning 30 in November. He wants to play 15 more years in the NFL. I think you got to work out some sort of long-term deal. All right, so will the Seahawks make the playoffs in 2018? Hit me up in the reaction poll. Give me a heart for yes, a like for no. Be sure to expand upon that in the comment section here on Facebook Live as well as YouTube Live. One more headline to get to, folks. The Seahawks have moved on from Cliff Averill. This broke on Friday, so if you missed it during the Friday news dump, Averill is now a free agent. He failed a physical, and the Seahawks announced this officially. So 4 games into his 10th NFL season, of course, Averill suffered that brutal neck injury that could very well end his career, which is really sad to see. Carroll once said that it'd be difficult to really envision Averill playing in the NFL again, but Averill himself has said his 2018 status is still very much up in the air. He finished his Seahawks career with 41 sacks in 64 games, including the postseason there. So really a true disruptor on that front line for Seattle. Really integral part of that defense for so many years, and it looks like he is moving on, whether it is into a different work or still with the NFL. We'll see. All right, folks. Latest headlines right there across the NFL here on the Cam Rogers Show, sponsored by the Game Time app. Head on to chatsports.com/tickets. Get all those last-minute sports tickets, concert tickets, and theater tickets by going on to chatsports.com/tickets. They are sponsoring episode 100 of the Cam Rogers Show here today. And what better time to welcome on Tom Downey to reveal his top 10 NFL power rankings. We're going to hit a quick break here on the Cam Show, and Tom will come on. Stay tuned. Hey, folks, welcome back to the Cam Rogers Show. Joined by a special guest, Tom Downey, this morning. How are we?
Congrats on 100, by the way.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Ultimate consistency, unlike the Toronto Raptors. Or at least they're consistently bad.
Yeah,
okay,
because that's what's going to happen anyway.
All right.
We all saw this coming. This should not be a surprise.
Harris Rubenstein. Yes. All right, let's get to the NFL power rankings here, Tom. The dust has settled here in this post-draft era, so you've crunched the numbers, you made your rankings. Let's get into it. Let's go to number 10 on Tom's list, and checking in there, the Tennessee Titans. And it's interesting, you think maybe regression. I think it also could be progression.
I am just concerned that this is going to be this year's Oakland Raiders team. Like a team that I like a lot, that I think should have a nice year. But based on the point differential, this team should take a big step back. But I think getting rid of Mike Mularkey, getting some talented players like Evans and Landry, I think that's going to help compensate for it. So I've got the Titans here at number 10. I strongly consider the 49ers. I'm sorry, Niners fans, leaving you guys out. Panthers, I'm sure you'll be in the playoff mix as well. Texans, Chargers, a few others. But I put Tennessee at 10 because I want to believe. I think this team could be really, really good, but it could also blow up in everyone's faces.
Well, they made
some
big-time additions. Dion Lewis, Malcolm Butler.
They got better. I thought they were a quality team last year. They were just held back by their coaching staff. I thought their roster overall was very good. Frankly, I think winning a playoff game and still firing Mularkey was the best thing that could have happened to them.
Well, new offensive coordinator Matt LaFleur comes over from L.A. too, and he did a great job with Gurley and Goff.
It was funny. I think Matt LaFleur was their second head coach choice, and they got him as their OC. So that's a win-win right there. All right. We'll see how Vrabel fares. I'm a little bit concerned it's a year too early for him, but we'll see.
Yeah, he's going to have to be an early bloomer, no doubt about that. All right, we got the Titans there at number 10 here in the power rankings. Let's go to number 9. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Tom. It sounds like the headlines are more about Le'Veon Bell not getting his contract and Ben complaining.
Well, I mean, what's changed?
Exactly.
It's the same as last year, and the Steelers were a great team last year, and they're, again, going to be a great team. There is very much a big difference here between Tennessee, I think, and Pittsburgh, at least in my eyes. I think the top 9, you can shuffle around a little bit more than you could say if you want to include Tennessee in that mix, or the Niners as well. In the AFC, Pittsburgh's going to win 12 or 13 games.
It's watered down.
As long as Big Ben is healthy. If Big Ben goes down with an injury, you've seen it in the past, that team is not very good.
Right.
Because it's not Landry Jones, it's not Joshua Dobbs, and I don't think it's Mason Rudolph, although I like him the best of those 3 guys.
Todd Haley gone as the offensive coordinator. Does that affect things at all, do you think?
I think Big Ben might be a little bit happier because he and Todd Haley did not get along. Yeah. And then again, it is Big Ben, so we know how he is. He is a bit of a drama queen, as he's been off-season already here. So in the end, it all comes down to the play of Big Ben. When Big Ben plays well, they're going to win games. They're going to win 12 or 13. When he plays bad, they're going to lose to the Jags again.
Right.
So it all depends on Ben Roethlisberger there. We'll see how they fare. They're going to win a lot of games. They should win the AFC North. I'd be surprised if they didn't, barring injuries. But the defense, I am just a little bit concerned about because of the linebacker position.
Which is interesting for Pittsburgh.
It is still a big need for them because Ryan Shazier is not going to play this year. John Bostic's going to be your second best linebacker, if not your best linebacker. Right. That's kind of concerning to me, even though I've always kind of liked Bostic, but he's not a number 1 guy.
I think this is a worthy topic of discussion. How many more years do the Steelers have left for Ben to really be Super Bowl caliber?
I don't know.
I mean, he's saying 3 to 5 more years.
Well, he also said, like, in the middle of the season, I'm not having it anymore. So who knows with Big Ben? I think he's got 3 more years left in him because I think he just likes to play up the drama any chance he gets because that's who he is. But I'll say 3. I think in terms of decline, we've seen his peak. So, yes, he is on the decline. But it's not like falling off a cliff decline. Okay. It's like a nice, steady downhill grade.
All right, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 9. Let's go to number 8 in Tom Downey's power rankings here. The Green Bay Packers. And my original power rankings did not have them. My latest edition did.
Smart man.
Like, I'm starting to warm up to their draft here, Tom. I am. With Jair Alexander, Josh Jackson, I think they will be important parts of that team.
Look, they won 7 games last year, and Aaron Rodgers missed half the games?
Yeah.
They didn't have Rodgers last year. So you bring back Aaron Rodgers, and yeah, this is a Super Bowl threat again. So that's the rationale here with Green Bay, just like Pittsburgh, I think, as well. As long as the quarterback is healthy, they're going to be a team that should be a Super Bowl threat. Now, we'll see how they fare without Jordy Nelson, but they got Jimmy Graham. That should be a fun 1-2 punch there for Green Bay at tight end at quarterback with Rodgers there. Plus, you're going to keep Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb. The offense should be good. The defense, again, has a new defensive coordinator. We'll see how that goes with Mike Pettin there.
Right.
I think they'll be in good shape. I am curious to see how they adjusted to some new changes there, some new schemes. But I think Green Bay is going to – they might not win the NFC North because of Minnesota, who we'll get to later. Hint, hint, they're very high. But I think they're going to be a playoff team. And Rodgers in the playoffs, I don't know if I really want to play them. I'll mention this, though. If Green Bay misses the playoffs or even gets bounced in the first round, could be it for McCarthy.
I mean, eventually – you got to grow impatient if you're Brian Gutekunst, the new GM there, right?
I mean, they should have won multiple Super Bowls, and
Yeah.
they haven't. Because when you have Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback, you should have multiple Super Bowls.
Right.
You only have the one. And I know it's tough winning a Super Bowl at all, but you should have multiple with Rodgers because he's so talented. So if they come up short again, I think that might increase the buzz around McCarthy. We've heard it in years past.
We
Not
have.
so much this year because there was the injury, it didn't really count, but I think it could pick back up again.
What did you say, by the way, about Deshaun Kizer? I saw your comment.
Oh,
there. Is he a first-round pick in 2018?
No, he's not. If you had gone back to school, then maybe we can have the discussion. But I don't think that's necessarily what McCarthy meant.
Okay.
So, and I say that as a member of the Deshaun Kizer fan club. He's going to learn behind Rodgers, and he's going to become a starting quarterback in the NFL.
All right. We'll see.
Yeah, but he was not a first-round pick. That was just weird.
The Green Bay Packers are at number 8 in Tom Downey's power rankings. Let's go to number 7 here. We've got the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that seemed to be a throwaway from the Super Bowl a year ago, Tom.
They were that close. They
were.
really were. That would have been a lot of fun. I think there might be some regression here for Jacksonville.
Okay.
I really do. And I think regression still means they make the playoffs. Now, I think the Titans, maybe the Texans as well, probably not the Colts, can compete with Jacksonville in the AFC South. I like Jacksonville a lot. I still don't trust Blake Bortles. I think in year 2 of the new offense in Jacksonville, I think you're going to see some scenarios where, Jacksonville, the teams are able to stop the run a little bit more effectively. The defense maybe isn't quite as elite. They just give up a few more points a game, and they ask Blake Bortles to do more. And
Make that throw. Can he make that throw?
I don't think he can. Yeah. So Bortles is very much a game manager right now, but I don't really trust him to make the plays when it counts. And NFL teams, every game that they play Jacksonville, and it's tough to do this, as we've seen, they're going to say, all right, Blake, beat us. He'll do it occasionally, but consistently to win playoff games, I just don't see it.
Well, we want to ask the audience here, can Blake Bortles really win a Super Bowl? Give us a hard for yes.
Can, yes.
Okay.
Will, no.
Okay, all right, there you go. Freezing is important
Yes,
here.
it is.
Give us a laughing face for just LOL, you're straight
I
up
like the
laughing
law. That's a
about
good
that. I'm thinking about this with Jacksonville. Maybe they try to channel the Denver Broncos of Super Bowl 50.
That's exactly what this is.
They're going to have to do that.
That's exactly what this is, and that's why he can win a Super Bowl. The difference is, look, I love Peyton Manning. That Peyton Manning that we saw when the Super Bowl for Denver, he was awful.
Yeah.
That was a shell of a quarterback who got by because he was super intelligent and just knew what the play was beforehand and still wasn't all that great. So I don't think Bortles has the intelligence of Peyton Manning because Peyton Manning is one of the smartest quarterbacks to ever play the game. So the defense can win a championship, but it's really tough to do so.
A frequent watcher of the Cam Rogers Show, Marcus Williams, says Blake Bortles can win a Super Bowl before Dak. Wow.
The defense is definitely better in Jacksonville, and I think the path to the playoffs alone is easier as well.
Fair.
So I don't actually hate that take necessarily.
All right, there you go. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars at number 7.
I see a lot of lulls popping up.
Naturally. Let's go to number 6 here on Tom's list. And we've got the Atlanta Falcons, a complete roster going into the draft, killed it in the draft, and here they are.
They're only 6 because of Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah.
If Sarks messes this up, I will never forgive him. This offense should be the best offense in the NFL. I think they have the most complete roster in the NFL. Maybe they want one more defensive lineman for depth, but you've got Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, you throw in Calvin Ridley, Austin Hooper is an average tight end, you got Matt Ryan, Devonta Freeman, Tevin Coleman, a very good offensive line with no real gaping holes.
Right.
This offense should be off the charts great. And it should have been that way last year. In all reality, Cam, Atlanta should have at least one Super Bowl. Now, we know what happened against the Patriots.
Oh, God.
We won't mention the score in that one. But they really should have done better last year in the playoffs as well, and they didn't do it. I put all the blame on Steve Sarkisian. And if he has a down year, you got to fire him. If the Falcons don't make the playoffs or if the Falcons don't get deep in the playoffs, I think you got to replace your OC, unless your defense just totally falls apart, which I don't think is going to happen.
No, they got good pieces, especially in that secondary there. Calvin Ridley, by the way, sneaky fantasy football play. I guess maybe not sneaky per se, but...
I have heard a surprising amount of backlash towards the Falcons draft, by the way.
Really?
I've been very surprised because they didn't think receiver was needed. I'm like, well, they lost Gabriel. slot in Ridley, you got better.
Ridley could be wide receiver number 2 on that team.
He might
could
end
beat
up
out
being.
Sanu.
Yeah, and he's going to play some slot, which is going to be fun. You can move all those guys around. You can get Julio in the slot some more. That's fun. So I love the Falcons draft. I love Atlanta. Roster talent-wise, they should be ahead of the 6th spot, but I have some concerns about Sark. And it's a little bit too much Sark after dark going on there.
All right, Falcons check in at number 6 on Tom's list. Let's go to the top 5. And checking in at number 5, a team that also is in the NFC South, the New Orleans Saints. Now, I have them a little higher on my list here, Tom, but we're pretty much mixing and matching the top 5.
I think there is another differentiation in the top 5 right now with 4 NFC teams. Hint, hint, and if you want to put the Saints even at number 2, I will stand firm on who the first team is. But if you want to put the Saints at number 2 overall, I get it. Like, I'm not going to have a whole lot of debate against you because I am okay with it. The defense overachieved last year, and I like that they went out and didn't just stand pat and said, okay, it's going to be the exact same. They went out and added extra players to ensure against the regression there. What does concern me long-term, Cam, is the move to go get Marcus Davenport, who now has to become an elite edge rusher.
Sure.
Because you gave up 2 first-round picks, and you did need another player there, but you don't have a first-round pick next year. So your window is now very narrow. Now, it can get expanded against the Saints to find a quarterback. It's not Taysom Hill. Don't try to sell me on that anymore, Saints. But on the flip side, Cam, if Drew Brees regresses this year, which I don't think he's going to, but at his age, it's going to happen at some point. It might be a Peyton Manning type deal where it's just gone and it never comes back. If he regresses, I don't know if this team is going to be a playoff team. And frankly, I think they might be one of the worst teams in the NFC South.
The good news here for Drew Brees loyalists out there, he won't be needed as much going forward. You got Kamara and you got Ingram.
The ground game is a big deal. That'll help the Saints out. But again, it does depend a lot on Drew Brees. And Saints were this close to making it deeper last year. I think that's going to let a fire in them there. Hopefully, Marcus Williams has a bounce back year.
Yeah.
Because that's the type of play that could really kind of mess with your psyche.
Sure.
I don't think it will because I think he's a good and heady player, but just monitor how he fares.
Yeah. All right. We got the New Orleans Saints there at number 5. Let's go to number 4 on the list here. And it's the final AFC team, Tom. Can I say that? Can I give out that?
Yes, you can mention that.
All right, we got the New England Patriots here at number 4. And for New England, an interesting draft, shall we say?
I thought the last couple drafts from Bill Belichick had been very weird.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're bad per se, but I don't think they've been that good either.
We're just armchair GMs, Tom.
Yes, we are. No, like, it's fine. The Patriots have a really good team. Tom Brady's going to make things better. I think based on their offseason moves, they want to run the football a lot more this year. They added multiple offensive linemen, Isaiah Wynn, Trent Brown. Brown is really good as well in terms of being a potential mauler for New England. Isaiah Wynn, we know, can play tackle or guard. They went out and they added Sony Michel. They added Jeremy Hill, who will compete for rush spots. At least Hill will. Michel's going to be on that roster. So I think you'll see more of a run game this year for New England, which is intriguing because Tom Brady continues to age. But in the end, in the AFC, the Patriots, they still reign supreme unless something changes. I don't think it's going to happen this year.
Is there going to be any team that knocks them off in the AFC East, or is it just going to be another division crown?
It's going to be the Patriots. Like,
it's unbelievable.
Like, it's not going to be Buffalo. I think Buffalo is rebuilding right now. I think they're going to be in for a bit of a down year. The Jets are not there yet at all. The Dolphins,
Miami, we don't even know what
they blew it up. Like, the Patriots should sweep the AFC East, frankly. Now, they might lose a game in there, but
maybe in Miami.
It's in a pretty easy path for New England to win at least 10 games, if not 13 or even 14.
Talk about going back to fantasy football. That backfield is a fantasy wasteland, man. Talking about Burkhead, James White, Sony Michel, Mike Gillislee if he makes the roster. It's crazy.
It's just pick none of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Or just draft the entire backfield and play them all.
There you go.
Get RB1 production.
There's always those players out there playing fantasy football. All right, we got New England there at number 4. Let's go to the top 3. The LA Rams, Tom, what an offseason they had. I'm telling you, this defense is going to be crazy good.
I am very curious how it all fits together now.
Yeah.
Because you're bringing in all new players. You got to adjust that in the locker room. I think the chemistry side of things can often be a little bit underrated. I think that was partially why the Rams were so bad under Jeff Fisher, because there was no chemistry between the staff and the players there. But you bring in Aqib Talib, you bring in Marcus Peters, you bring in Ndamukong Suh, you bring in Brandon Cooks. This team is loaded. This team should be a Super Bowl threat. They should be one of the best teams in the NFC. But again, it's year 2. How do things change? The expectations, Cam, are very, very different now for the Rams. It's no longer just we're going to be the surprise team. It's now, hey, you're expected to win 12 games. How do you handle that? How do you handle that pressure there? And how do you handle everyone wants to beat you now as well?
Sure.
So I trust the Rams. They're number 3 for me for a reason. I think they're going to end up winning the NFC West. and it's not going to be the Seahawks or the 49ers, but we'll see how they fare.
I'll tell you what.
You do want to see some more progression from Jared Goff as he develops as well, even though he was very good last year.
If there's anybody out there who can deal with egos, it's DC Wade Phillips.
Yes, I'm not concerned about the defensive side.
Yeah, I think they'll do okay with Aqib Talib and Marcus Peters
Wade
and all that.
Such a great combo.
And then that offense, I think, is in good shape as well. Todd Gurley, you know, he had one rough year and then an Offensive Player of the Year. So we've gotten 2 versions of Todd so far. Hopefully he can kind of continue that momentum from a year ago. All right, we got the Rams there at number 3. Let's go to number 2 on the list. And it's the Minnesota Vikings. Tom, the last time we saw them, they got destroyed by Philadelphia.
Yes, that was not the game either of us expected.
No, definitely not, because I picked them to win the Super Bowl.
Tough break for Minnesota, but they got an upgrade at quarterback in Kirk Cousins, and because of why not, they got Sheldon Richardson on defense too.
Sure.
So the one maybe concern for me is the offensive line a little bit, especially at the other guard spot, unless they're going to move Brian O'Neill on the outside, move someone on the inside. Probably Mike Remmers on that end. But Minnesota, I think, should be one of the top 2 teams in the NFC. If they have a down year and if they get bounced early again, maybe, just maybe, hear a little bit of buzz about Mike Zimmer.
Really?
I am not going to ever fire Mike Zimmer. I love him. But the expectations are now sky high for Minnesota. And you'll definitely hear about Kirk Cousins. If Minnesota doesn't make it to at least the NFC Championship game this year, and if not, just win it, you're going to hear buzz about, oh, Kirk Cousins is overrated.
Well, I mean, just think about it. Just imagine, folks,
Yeah.
you were being paid $84 million for the course of a season, or the course of however many seasons he signed on for, all right? And now the pressure is on for you to perform. If you don't win a Super Bowl within this contract here.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah.
Now, I think Minnesota has the talent really from top to bottom. I think they're a great roster. Again, I love Mike Zimmer. I'm a big fan of John DeFilippo as well.
I am too.
He is one of my favorite coordinators. I thought he should have had some more buzz for head coaching jobs. Assuming he does well, and I think he will, it's only going to be a matter of time before he gets a head coaching job in the NFL. It might even be next year.
All right, Minnesota Vikings check in at number 2. Tom and I have the same theory in terms of NFL power rankings. You give respect to the champs. That's what Tom is doing here. The Philadelphia Eagles at number 1. The big time question mark for them, Tom, the health of Carson Wentz.
And there's been some buzz that Wentz thinks he's going to be able to play in week 1. We'll see. I think they might be a little bit more cautious because Nick Foles is there, and Nick Foles led him to a Super Bowl, which no one really expected. Yet there they are, they're the winner there. I am always a believer that if you won last year, you automatically start at number 1, barring extreme examples of changes. If your roster got decimated, if you lost all of your coordinators or something like that. Philly really didn't lose all that much. Now, yeah, they lost guys like Trey Burton, who I like, and yeah, Patrick Robinson as well. This is still a really, really good roster. So for me, the Philadelphia Eagles are no doubt the number 1 team in the NFL. And this, by the way, is a team that's not going to go away anytime soon. Philadelphia is going to remain near the top of the NFL.
By the way, they're getting Hicks back at linebacker, right? Peters back at left tackle. A lot of big-time
There was an argument that 3 of their, let's just say 5 best players were hurt last year.
Yeah.
And look what they did. So, yeah, Philly's number 1.
Now, one thing to point out here with Philadelphia, Frank Reich is no more. John DeFilippo is no more as well.
Yeah, tough to lose both those guys.
Yeah.
That's the big blow there. So we'll see how the offense adjusts. Now, Doug Peterson, I think, will be fine. He can take over play calling if it's absolutely needed. But I am curious to see how they go there. Peterson, though, I trust as a head coach and as the offensive mastermind.
All right, Tom Downey, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate the time, my man.
Of course, anytime.
Let's summarize Tom's list here. Post-draft NFL power rankings. The Tennessee Titans check in at number 10. I'm telling you, that team could either be a big-time disappointment or a big-time surprise in the NFL. Talking about perhaps an AFC championship game type of ceiling. Got the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 9. Then the Green Bay Packers at 8. Jacksonville Jaguars at 7. The Atlanta Falcons check in at number 6. And then the top 5 teams for Tom Downey. The Saints at 5. You got New England at 4. The LA Rams are at number 3. They got to put it all together, but they have the pieces there. Minnesota at 2, and the Philadelphia Eagles are there at number 1. You guys are watching the Cam Rogers Show, episode 100, presented by the Game Time app. Head on to chatsports.com/tickets to get 60% off all those last-minute sports tickets, concert tickets, and so much more. Once again, chatsports.com/tickets. 5-star reviews, by the way, on Android and iOS. All right, folks, so in light of the recent LeBron James buzzer beater against the Toronto Raptors, who are now down 0-3 against the Cavs, it got me thinking, why not rank the top 10 most clutch NBA players in history. We'll count you down from number 10 all the way to number 1. Stay tuned to see if LeBron makes that list. Let's go to number 10 on the list here, Chauncey Billups. And I'll tell you what. First of all, I will say this. It was really hard to rank all these players. The differential is very difficult. These are all talented NBAers. All right, so looking at Chauncey here, in a span of 2 weeks in 2003, Billups sank a pair of game-winning three-pointers, the first against the Warriors, the second against the Hawks. That's when he earned the nickname Mr. Big Shot. All right, so he's got to be on the list. And he's also known for one of the more memorable shots ever, the one that sticks out to me, 2004 playoffs against the Nets, when he dribbled up past half court, banked in a game-tying triple at the buzzer to force overtime there. The Pistons retired Billups' number 1 jersey back in 2016, won the title with the team in 2004, where he won the MVP as well. 5-time NBA All-Star, and the University of Colorado also retired his jersey too, where he played his college days. So Chauncey Billups checks in at number 10, and he's a pretty darn good number 10 too. I'm telling you, a lot of talent as I go down this list here. Let's go to number 9, most clutch players in NBA history. And at this number, we've got Derek Fisher. So I'm thinking this memory here, folks. Game 5, 2004 Western Conference semifinals. Tim Duncan just drilled a go-ahead fadeaway. There is 0.4 seconds left. Somehow, Derek Fisher made the turnaround jumper before the buzzer, and that was that. That shot is still considered one of the best in NBA history. He was also really clutch in the 2009 finals, burying a pair of huge threes in that Game 4 of that series, and is the all-time record holder in NBA playoff games played. 5-time NBA champion, winning 3 straight with Shaq, Kobe, and Phil there with the Lakers. So played a total of 18 NBA seasons, went on to coach a little bit with the Knicks too. Just an illustrious career. Derek Fisher made big shot after big shot after big shot. He's there at number 9. Let's go to number 8 on the list here. And by the way, guys, if I leave anybody out, let me know in comments. Start yelling at me. Reggie Miller here is at number 8. Scored 8 points in 9 seconds in the closing moments of Indiana's improbable comeback Game 1 win in New York during the 1995 playoffs. Now, you guys may recall the nickname Nick Killer. I was Reggie Miller. So there was the catch-and-shoot game winner in the conference finals against Chicago in 1998. One of the NBA's all-time craziest made shots came from Miller himself when he sank that game-tying turnaround three-pointer from about 40 feet out during the 2002 playoffs against the Nets. You know, I think back to some of the memories of the early 2000s in the NBA, especially in the playoffs, and Reggie Miller sticks out big time. I had to put him on this list. Had a fantastic career from beyond the arc. Just a great shooter, 5-time NBA All-Star, playing all 18 seasons with those Pacers there. All right, so Miller's at number 8. Let's go to number 7 on the list here. Here he is, guys. I threw him in here, and maybe the argument could be made he should be higher, but there is LeBron. Let's first dispel this notion that LeBron James isn't clutch. I think that theory is officially donezo. So he nailed a buzzer beater floater to put the Cavs up 3-0 on those poor hapless Raptors. Oh, man, Toronto just continues to Toronto itself. So with that, the Cavs are just 1 game away from reaching the Eastern Conference Finals for the 4th consecutive year. LeBron has already hit 5 buzzer beaters in his postseason career. He clinched his first playoff buzzer beater in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Orlando Magic in 2009. And here comes the Jordan versus LeBron debate here, and LeBron actually has a slightly better percentage when it comes to clutch shots compared to Jordan. This coming from ESPN and the metrics that they have. LeBron landing 47% of his attempted game-winning shots. Jordan only has 45%. So just a little tick above Michael there with LeBron. LeBron's at number 7. Well, let's go to number 6 on the list here. Robert Horry. He earned the nickname Big Shot Rob for a reason with his incredible late-game heroics. He loved the crunch time and the pressure of the game. There's no doubt about that. The Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals in 2004 is what really sticks out to me when Horry drilled a game-winning 3 at the buzzer. 7-time NBA champion, winning 2 with the Rockets, 3 with the Lakers, 1962 with the Spurs. You could make the argument that he should be higher as well. But again, it was really difficult to rank all these players, so very up for debate. There's no doubt about it. Robert Horry there at number 6 on my rankings. Let's go to number 5 here on the list, and it's Mr. Logo himself, Jerry West. 2 plays to focus on here. The first in 1962 in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. West stole an inbounds pass from Sam Jones, raced down the court, beat the buzzer with a game-winning layup, and then in 1970, West made arguably the most unbelievable shot in league history when he sank a game-tying heave from beyond half court at the buzzer to force overtime against the Knicks in the finals there. Jerry West, a human highlight reel, won the NBA Finals in 1972, also the MVP in 1969. And when you have like a bunch of nicknames like Mr. Clutch, The Logo, Mr. Outside, you got to put him on the list. He's there at number 5. Let's go to number 4 here. It's Magic. Magic Johnson. How can we forget Johnson's game-winning Kareem Abdul-Jabbar-esque skyhook over Kevin McHale and Robert Parrish during the 1987 Finals against those Celtics? That was the play that really stuck out to me. And then there was when he subbed in for the injured Kareem at center and catapulted the Lakers to the title with a 42-point, 15-rebound, and 7-assist masterpiece. Magic Johnson was something special and went on to win 5 NBA titles, 3 Finals MVPs, and 3 regular season MVPs as well. Great resume at that. He's at number 4 on my list of most clutch players in NBA history. Let's go to number 3 now. Larry Bird. Crushing the hearts of opposing fans was routine for this guy. Perhaps the most extraordinary game winner came in 1985. Against the Blazers, he took 1 dribble and sank a game-winning jumper as he was falling out of bounds. Larry Bird, ladies and gentlemen, went on to win 3 NBA titles, 3 NBA MVPs, won the gold medal with the Dream Team back in 1992 as well. So he's all over the map, ladies and gentlemen. Larry Bird at number 3 on my list. Let's go to number 2, and you've probably said his name when you're on the court trying to make a shot. Kobe Bryant. And if we're talking the waning moments of the game, you gave the ball to Kobe Bryant. It didn't matter when, whether it was an exhibition game or the Olympics or anything like that. For example, 2007 Team USA scrimmage game when Bryant drilled a game-winning jumper over the reach of Tayshaun Prince. I mean, it just didn't matter what the situation was. Kobe Bryant was going to make that shot, and you created a play. Phil Jackson created a play for Kobe Bryant to get it done in crunch time. He's there at number 2 on my list. Finally, the most clutch player in NBA history, the man himself, Michael Jordan. There was the shot against the Cavs in 1989. You, of course, had the flu game in the 1997 Finals. Jordan, nothing fazed him. And he made clutch shot after clutch shot. In fact, he was clutch in college as well. You may remember that go-ahead jumper in the 1982 NCAA title game. Michael Jordan, you got to put him in here, ladies and gentlemen, at number 1. But hey, if I'm wrong, let me know. Here's my top 10. Phillips, Fisher, Miller, James, Horry there, 10 through 6. And then 5 through 1, there's Jerry. We got Magic. We got Bird covered. Kobe Bryant at number 2. And Michael Jordan there at number 1. All right, folks, this has been the Cam Rogers Show, episode 100. Wanted to take a few seconds here to thank all of you for coming along for the journey so far. It has been really exciting. We didn't know really what was going to come of this show, and we certainly appreciate all of you guys watching the program, and many thanks to the men themselves, Brett Scott and James Yoder, for thinking of me and investing in me to make it happen. So here's to many more episodes of the Cam Rogers Show, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll see you Wednesday morning, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Take care.